text function. So the text is over here in the toolbar under T. You've got a whole bunch of subcategories in here as well, but the first two, the most common two that we're going to use are you can fill an area or you can use your text to manipulate a shape. So this one, I'm going to draw myself a box. I know that I want my text to fill this area like this. Okay, it's quite big at the moment. That's okay. It's going to fill it with Latin. It is going to show me essentially what that's going to look like. It's called a place filler text. So for right now, I'm going to say fill the box because that's what it's going to do. If I was to make this bigger, it is going to move that down as soon as it hits there, and it's not going to go outside of that box. So that's the first type. We've got the box. You draw the shape of where you want it to go, and then you can fill the text with that. Then there's the second type. So the first one, I click and drag the box. The second one, I just click once, and it's going to give me an opportunity to just start typing. So with this, I can then go back to my selection tool, and I can just move it around as if it were a shape, so I can do kind of what I want with it from there. So there are your two sort of options. You've got the box, and any kind of movement that I do with the box changes the box here rather than the text itself, whereas the other one, it changes the text itself. So remember, they are click and drag to get a box, or just click once to get the actual text itself, and then to start manipulating the text. So they're sort of my two options. If you've made a mistake, regardless, so you're back into your selection tool, you've realized you've made a typo in the word start, you just double click on them in both options, so it will take you back into the text tool there. Alternatively, you can click on the text tool and then click on the words. Both work fine. So those are there. Those options are there. So just to clarify one more time, text tool, click and drag will give you a box to start filling. And if you just click once, it will just give you some letters to start filling. So there are my options. This one, I can change the box size, nothing happens to my text. This one, if I change the box, my text gets bigger, smaller, whatever it is. So I am going to take this and I'm going to change the font. So up here in my control panel, remembering my control panel allows me to make changes to the tool. The tool panel is what I'm actually using at the time. So the control panel up here, I'm going to go to this text here, and that's giving me a different font. You've also got sort of different options here. So I'm going to go with caps, and then this is the size. I can change it this way as well. This is how you would change it in your box option. You have to change it using these in here, and then you can type into that as well. So 150. So yeah, if your text is bigger than your box, you'll get this little red square here. You just need to make the box a bit bigger, and then your text will come back. So yeah, they're sort of your different options. You've got different fonts up in here with Illustrator and all Adobe products. If you've got a little arrow, then you've got other options. If you don't have an arrow, then you've only got that one text and that's it. The one font and that's it, because Adobe doesn't pay the fines like Microsoft to be able to bold and italicize all fonts. So you can only do that with some fonts. So anything with an arrow down like this will give you sort of those fonts. You can also favorite fonts, so I can be like, this is my favorite one, and it should stay sort of up in here for you if you ever need that. So that is also there. That's pretty much you've got your color as well. So if I want to change the color, I've also got a stroke and a fill when it comes to text. So I can go blue, and that's going to give me the fill, but if I give it a red stroke, you can see that that's given it sort of like an outline in there, like that. So fill and stroke work in exactly the same way that your shapes do. Okay, so Some other cool stuff you can do with text is you've got a bunch of different options. So you've got type on a path tool, you've got a vertical type tool, vertical area tool, vertical type on path. So if I just give you this one, so I'll need to draw a line. I'll go this way, this way, this way. Sometimes people ask me why this is happening. It's because it's got a fill. So if I get rid of the fill, you'll just have a line, which is great. So we're just going to do that. So this is my current shape, and I want to type on that shape. I want my words to go along here. So I'm going to hold and select the type on path tool. And then I'm going to select this path, and as you can see there, Chloe McCallum is going to start coming up there. So if I make that a whole lot smaller, you'll be able to see a bit more of it. My shape is quite steep, so you can see what happens if your shape is really steep. It's not that effective always, but now I'll just make this something that you can see. So yeah, you can type on a path. If I can then go, oh, I don't really like that, so I'm going to keep moving sort of this out, and I'm going to flatten that out a little bit. The text will move with it. So that's a pretty cool feature, I think, that you can create sort of very clever little projects with, like that. So really interesting ways of using text in there. So that's typing on a path. You've got the same with vertical text tool, so this way it's just going to go down instead of, sort of across, so that's your vertical rather than horizontal, so that's all in there. So have a play around with the stuff that's in here. It is really quite fun to play with, but your most common ones are just your normal type tool and you're typing on a path or your vertical typing. So they're very clever. You don't need to type each individual letter. Like I've seen some of you doing to get that to happen. There is a tool for that, so just keep that in mind. What I'm going to do is to move and manipulate their text where they want to. You can do this, so you need to turn it from text into a shape first. So select the text that you've got there, and you want to go Object, Expand. So what this is going to do is it's going to turn it from a text into individual shapes. So in order to manipulate them, you then need to go right-click, Ungroup, click off of it, and then you'll have each individual shape there rather than all of them moving together. So from here, I can go to my Direct Selection tool, go in and click on some of the anchor points so you can see that they all come up there. And I can be like, you know what, I want this to be a really warped and manipulated. I'm going to delete some of these guys in here. C, I want it to sort of look very melted in its pathway. I want these curves to be a bit longer and a bit more all over the place. Okay, so I can start to sort of manipulate my letter to look kind of how I want it to look. That was just deleting the whole thing, which is great. So yeah, you can really then play with each letter and make them look kind of how you want them to look. So that's a really fun thing to do. You can also then use those as a mask. So if I was to drop a photo into here, let's use this guy. So I've got this. I can then use this as a mask. Arrange that forward. So if I then go, so I've got my object over the top of a photo or an image. I'm going to go Object, Clipping Mask, Make. Oh no, I need to select both, my bad, sorry. Object, Clipping Mask, Make. And it will give me that picture inside of that letter, which is really, really cool. So I can then sort of add a stroke to it, make it look a bit more fancy. So that's sort of my letter, which is a really fun way to go about it and create really interesting letters. So have a play around with that. So that was creating an object and expanding it, and then using that object to create a clipping mask over the top of an image. So they're both really fun extension sort of things you can do with text that I think make all the difference.